Welcome to this Cronkite News special. I'm Nikki Naik. Thanks for joining us. From borderlands to business, from education to law enforcement, our Cronkite News staff works in teams to deliver news on specific topics of interest to Arizonans. Tonight, we highlight some of our top stories on the consumer beat, stories about protecting your money, identity, and livelihood.
Due to summer heat, campers were prohibited from having campfires, but the Maricopa County Parks and Recreation Department lifted the fire ban just last week. Cronkite News reporter Erica Arrington went to Lake Pleasant to find out how this will affect Arizona campers.
We will be grilling, and since we just found out we can have a fire, we are definitely going to get some wood.
At Lake Pleasant Regional Park, more people are camping as the weather cools down. Cooler temps also means an end to the fire ban. Park Ranger Terry Gerber says even without the ban, campers need to be careful and remember that there may still be restrictions.
So we're trying to allow the campers now, if they understand how to use their fires, that they can actually go ahead. We're going to go ahead and have that restriction off since we did get some rain. But if for some reason the wind picks up, we will have a temporary ban at that point.
Some campers are firing up the barbecue and making plans for s'mores. Others are trading the wood for charcoal.
Out here at Lake Pleasant Regional Park, they provide multiple cabanas throughout their park that are accompanied by charcoal grills. This will allow campers to safely enjoy a barbecue dinner now that the fire ban has been removed.
If campers need fire supplies, volunteers like Beth Ann Schnell explains where to find them. Schnell lives in the park for most of the year and has tips on how campers can follow park rules.
The winds are always unpredictable at the lake, so, taking care of the fire and managing and making sure you put it out properly when you're finished is really important.
You can't camp without a campfire.
Making sure the fire is out helps prevent wildfires, allowing everyone a safe time in the outdoors. At Lake Pleasant, Erica Arrington, Cronkite News.
To stay up to date on current fire ban restrictions, you can head to the Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management. But that isn't the only reason people are wearing purple today. Today is Spirit Day, an annual LGBTQ awareness day created in response and to bring attention to bullying-related suicides of LGBTQ youth. For members of this community, growing up can be an emotional and physical battle. Mia Atkins sat down with a 19-year-old who went through this struggle.
When I came out, my family basically said, we can't accept you.
Sam Stoss was designated female at birth. As a child, he began to question his gender. The now 19-year-old college student said the biggest obstacle growing up was the lack of acceptance from some relatives and friends.
But it was rough, not having that support from extended family.
Tammy Stoss, Sam's mother, said she and Sam's sibling accepted him, but his aunts and uncles asked her, how could she allow her 14-year-old to transition?
How we dealt with it, we drew a line in the sand. And we said, listen, this is our family, this is who we are.
Dr. Vinnie Chulani of Phoenix Children's Hospital says that transgender children need a safe space. The hospital runs a gender management program for gender nonconforming, gender questioning, and transgender youth to support their physical, mental, and social health.
When young people feel connected and supported and affirmed by their families, it makes a whole lot of difference in terms of physical outcomes, in terms of emotional and social health outcomes.
Sam Stoss remembers the reaction of a close friend when they were in 8th grade.
I was kind of playing with the idea of I could be a boy one day. And I had mentioned that to her, and she's like, well, you're not a boy, and you never will be, and I can't be your friend.
His mother offered comfort through his struggles.
It was really hard to watch. As a parent, to see your kid not have any friends and not know where they fit in.
Dr. Chulani said that being treated like an outsider can be deadly.
There's about a 40% rate of suicide attempts within the transgender community, and I think really finding that kind of social acceptance and support is critical.
Sam was 14 years old when he began his physical transition. He has a message of hope for other young people who are transgender.
You can do it, you really can. Because people will, and people do.
Resources like Arizona Trans Youth and Parent Organization are among several Arizona organizations that are available to help people in transition. In Phoenix, Mia Atkins, Cronkite News.
Good manners and living on your own are things often taken for granted, but members of the autistic community, these things don't always come easily. And Kirko Marinier talked to First Place, an organization that's working to give these adults the skills they need to successfully integrate into society.
Joanna Bernowski takes great pride in her work at Phoenix-based Omni Bioceutical Innovations.
By looking at the back of the bottle and making sure everything's straight and completely pressed.
Bernowski participates in the First Place Transition Academy, a program through the Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center, or SARC, that trains adults with autism and helps them find jobs with companies like Omni.
I think that there is a large population that's coming of age, and I think it's a human mandate that we have to create these opportunities for these young adults.
SARC will soon provide housing as well. Collaborating with First Place, construction on a 4-story complex with 56 units is well underway and is expected to welcome tenants next spring.
Contractors say that everything about this building is deliberate, from its location to its inside features such as extra soundproof walls and mild muted colors to cater to the sensory needs of their future residents.
First Place founder and CEO Denise Resnick says the new apartments are a necessary step to getting adults on the spectrum ready for the real world.
It's there to help support individuals so that they can learn how to better live more independently and then perhaps move on to their next place.
For Bernowski, her dreams go far beyond Phoenix, Arizona.
My dream job is to work for the Walt Disney Company, since I love Disney.
She feels that the First Place program will help her gain the skills she needs to reach her goals. In Phoenix, in Kirko Marinier, Cronkite News.
The First Place Transition Academy program accepts 32 participants a year with classes that teach things such as manners and travel.
One group that may see a larger impact from any healthcare change would be those with special needs. Sydney Eisenberg attended a discussion to help them sort through the political confusion.
An important part of this new bill would allow states to come up with their own structure for health care. However, many in Arizona are worried that this change would lead to devastating coverage losses.
We were basically politely stonewalled with the broken record game. They're not meeting with their constituents to find out what do they want us to vote on. They don't care what we think.
Arizonans are feeling frustrated with health care.
I mean, this is about investing in our people.
The Arizona Autism Coalition set up an open discussion to try and ease some of that frustration.
And what we're trying to do today was, what have you heard? Let's talk about what we know, and let's see if we can figure out how we can move forward with a true understanding for every group.
Many in the special needs community worry about how healthcare changes will impact them. One way they may already be impacted is through a cut to an organization that helps people with their healthcare options.
Unbeknownst to many of the Navigator organizations, we have something like 300 Navigators across the state of Arizona. Their funding was cut, I don't know, two and a half weeks ago by 41%.
Now the community is coming together to stand up for their rights.
This is a call to action, so we need to make sure that we're taking action.
Let them know your thoughts about this, because this is a very, very tight window.
Ken Kennegus does not want those in the special needs community to sit in silence.
That's where we've got to go, is to a system that everyone has a right to the health care that they need based on the fact that they're a human being.
Again, the bill must receive 50 votes by the end of the month in order to pass without bipartisan approval. You can follow Cronkite News for more updates on the healthcare reform. In the broadcast center, Sydney Eisenberg, Cronkite News. It's been more than 2 weeks since Hurricane Harvey devastated parts of Texas, but the recovery efforts are still ongoing, and several Arizonans decided to jump in and help. Cronkite News reporter Bridget Dowd was there as they headed out to the Lone Star State.
As the sun came up, the trucks were packed and ready to go. Valley resident Che Tor says when he heard about the devastation in Texas after Harvey, he knew he wanted to help.
I gave a call to my buddy Jason. It's like, hey Jason, you want to go to Texas to help with the volunteer efforts? And his response, yeah, I would love to. And that's how all this got started. And we started fundraising, donation drives, stuff like that.
Tor, along with a group of his friends and colleagues, gathered early Friday morning, getting ready for the 20-hour drive to Texas. Among them, Nicole O'Reilly.
Just seeing the amount of destruction that is left behind, it broke my heart because, you know, in our business, we help people find homes, and these people are losing them.
This group of Arizonans set up several drop-off points throughout the valley to collect supplies for the victims of Hurricane Harvey. They have 2 truckfuls. As you can see behind me, they've collected toiletries, toilet paper, toothbrushes, anything that they could think of that victims of Hurricane Harvey would need.
About a dozen volunteers from all over the valley are a part of this aid group. One man even bringing along his family, including his 15-year-old daughter, Mikkel Zimmerman, who lived half her life in Texas.
I have a lot of friends and family down there, and I want to help in any way that I can because I'm pretty close to Texas. My brothers were born there, and so it has a special place in my heart.
Zimmerman says she knows joining the relief efforts will be hard work, but she's ready to help those who need it most. In Chandler, Bridget Dowd, Cronkite News.
The crew plans to deliver supplies and help with cleanup efforts before returning to Arizona tomorrow.
The light rail extension heading towards South Phoenix is well into the initial design phase. Those behind the project held an open house, giving residents a closer look into how the project is coming along. Cronkite News reporter Alex Valdez was there and also shares why some business owners are both welcoming and nervous about this expansion. Alex?
I'm standing right outside one of the many light rail stations around the valley. Starting in the year 2023, residents and visitors will be able to ride the light rail down to Central and Baseline and enjoy what many locals around the area call the hidden wonders of South Phoenix. But some say it won't come without its challenges. Norberto and Sandra Flores, both of them South Phoenix natives, say they wanted to open Azucar's coffee shop, 1, to show their Latino roots, and 2, in a part of Phoenix they say is often forgotten.
We were wanting to show an identity of not only a Hispanic identity, but also a South Phoenix identity, a Chicano identity.
That identity can be clearly seen in and outside their family-owned cafe. The vision to bring a very needed coffee shop and meeting place to the area started 2 years ago. Owners Norberto and Sandra say they have mixed feelings about the light rail that's coming. Many businesses along Central Avenue are hopeful for the economic growth that the light rail expansion could potentially bring to South Phoenix. But many share fears in terms of the construction phase and how that could impact their business. The expansion will run through District 8 Councilwoman Kate Gallego's territory. She says she wanted to address some of the concerns expressed by residents.
We have to work hard on construction to make sure that we minimize the impacts. We're starting earlier to assist our businesses than ever before so that we can make sure we have good communication and good plans set up to have as little disruption as possible.
The florists are now preparing a plan to keep their business on track during the construction phase of the light rail.
In particular, just with our customers and really just trying to build customer relationships, because I think that's really where it's going to be for us. You know, if we build our customer relation, then they're going to want to come.
The start of construction on the light rail expansion to South Phoenix is expected to break ground in the year 2019. For a look at where exactly the light rail is headed, visit our website, cronkitenews.azpbs.org. Live in downtown, I'm Alex Valdez, Cronkite News.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
A deli shop in Gilbert has opened its door for business for over a year now, but their food isn't the only thing they serve in their business with pride.
Reporter Nicole Gutierrez tells us why not your typical deli hires employees diagnosed with autism and other developmental issues.
I asked my parents, how do you feel about the fact that your son will never be a normal child? That is the kind of misconceptions about autism that just need to stop.
It's this misconception that not your typical deli is trying to break with their employment policies.
Our managers and Chef W treats us not for our autism, but just like normal employees.
Cordell Sherwood, who was diagnosed with autism, working at the deli has helped him gain independence.
That's just one of the misconceptions about autism, is that people with autism don't want to work less or can't work, but they can.
According to Autism Society of Southern Arizona, more than 70% of adults diagnosed with autism that want to work are denied employment.
We're here to work, and we make a difference just by being who we are and by working as hard as we possibly can.
Chef W. Reith, co-owner of the deli, says they base their success on how many jobs they create, not on how much money they make.
Consistency is a big part of a successful restaurant. They thrive with routine, which really makes working in a restaurant very easy. It makes us owning a restaurant even happier because it runs like a top.
And according to Chef W, most customers that come in the door are because of online food reviews, not knowing that more than 70% of their employees have a type of disability.
They're like, wow, really? We just came here because, you have 5-star rating on Yelp. That's spreading true awareness.
Serving up opportunities along with their sandwiches.
Have a great day.
In Gilbert, Nicole Gutierrez, Cronkite News.
Weekends are hard for kids in need. They don't get school lunches and can go all weekend with little to no food. But as Erica Arrington reports, an Arizona nonprofit was started by an Arizona woman who heard about the extreme need.
He had just been in a school cafeteria, and he basically watched one of his students go through the trash and pull food out that she thought was acceptable to use, and so she would wrap it in napkins and put it in her pockets. And he later found that she was from a low-income family. She had a brother and sister, so they ate breakfast and lunch at school through the federally funded program, but they didn't eat on weekends.
Lisa Scarpinato, co-founder of Kitchen on the Street, started the program to help eliminate situations like that by providing food for students to take home.
So Bags of Hope are food backpacks that kids pick up on Friday at school, carry home, and consume the contents over the weekend. So that, in conjunction with the federally funded breakfast and lunch program, allows these kids access to food 7 days a week.
Here in Arizona, 28% of children are food insecure according to No Kid Hungry. Maryland School is one of the 33 schools participating in the program.
For me, just for people to be aware that this is an issue like poverty and hunger, it's a real issue, and how it affects, the students here at school and not just at home.
These bags have meals in them that are canned, so they're non-perishable, that include red beans and rice and beef stew and other meals like that, and also some snacks that include pretzels, some applesauce, and also granola bars, so that the kids have something to eat on the weekends. Last year, Kitchen on the Street distributed more than 51,000 bags of hope to nearly 2,000 students.
It's priceless. I don't know how to put it into words.
In Phoenix, Erica Arrington, Cronkite News.
If you want to help, the program has a food truck and cafe at Scottsdale to fund the Kitchen on the Street program and others for families in poverty. They are also looking for volunteers.
The city of Tempe provides jobs for people who are homeless. Holly Bach reports the city plans to be one of the first employers.
It's a great program. It allows people to regain back dignity.
Tempe Works is the first program of its kind in Arizona designed to help those who are homeless become self-sustaining.
We're going to provide part-time jobs within the city as well as wraparound services such as case management, assistance with housing, and transportation to and from the work site.
We're going to hire some of the first employees into the program working for solid waste, washing and repairing garbage containers, and working in our green organics yard, assisting with the process of green organics to compost.
Those workers will start at $10 per hour. Program participants will receive housing and utilities, uniform, transportation, and items needed to maintain a job.
They can also come here to our food pantry and receive assistance with any kind of hunger relief needs, not only while they're in the shelter, but also when they move into housing and they're getting established and trying to get back onto self-sufficiency, they can continue to access services through us.
A shower unit is also available to help workers clean up.
This unit and its predecessor, it helps individuals not only land jobs, but keep jobs.
Churches in the area provide volunteers to help program participants get back on their feet.
We get to know folks, they get to know us, and in some ways, we impact each other's lives.
The Arizona State Fair is back open today for its final 2 weeks of the season. Reporter Enkirika Omernie spoke to ride experts to see what is being done to ensure the safety of fairgoers.
The Arizona State Fair attracts more than 1 million people annually. People from all over the state come to enjoy different foods, games, and rides.
The rides are fun. We're here to have fun. I don't really worry about anything.
However, while the rides are a big attraction, there can be safety concerns that go along with them.
This one I feel a little bit more safer with versus the ones that go up in the air and spin around and all that. At least this one stays primarily on the ground.
We look for anything that may have happened from the last event to this event. 90% of the things that happen on amusement rides generally happen during transport.
Barry Scheibel has been a ride inspector since 1972. He's a third-party inspector hired by the fair to give a second look at the rides to ensure that everything goes as planned.
I've seen a lot of videos where the rides have malfunctioned, so I'm just kind of nervous for my children to get on a ride like that.
In July, an 18-year-old man was killed and 7 more injured when a ride at the Ohio State Fair malfunctioned. Scheibel says that something like that wouldn't happen here in Arizona.
We don't have the rust and corrosion problems that they have on the East Coast. We don't get that here at all. That ride failed due to ice, snow, salt.
In his time as an inspector, Scheibel says no one has been seriously injured on a ride that he has looked at, as long as they ride properly.
Arizona State Fair officials say that most often when people are hurt on rides, it has little to do with the ride itself, but rather the rider not following directions. So that can mean being too short for the ride, raising up from the seat when in motion, or not keeping their hands and feet inside as they should.
With good maintenance, Scheibel says rides can last up to 100 years. In Phoenix, Enkirika Omernie, Cronkite News.
Scheibel says that most rides take about 2 to 3 hours to look at.
Arizona State University has just finished phase 2 of renovations to the Memorial Union building, and some of those renovations were included to help people practice their faith. Cronkite News reporter Blakely McHugh gives us a tour.
ASU's Memorial Union has updated its dining, entertainment, and study areas with more open space, new pool tables, and better accessibility. But the thousands of students who utilize the Tempe Union every day may not notice recent renovations added a place for students to practice their religious beliefs. It's called the Interfaith Reflection Room, and right next to it are ablution rooms.
Muslims, before they pray, they have to make wudu, so ablution, ritualistic purification. So that's basically performing like a cleanse of your body before you pray.
Wudu involves cleansing the body, including the head, face, hands, arms, and feet. The university included the rooms in the $10 million renovations to ensure that students felt included on campus.
ASU is a very inclusive university, and so we've got a lot of faiths represented across the student body. And so I think it's important to recognize that and to be sensitive to that and appreciate their desires.
Students from the Muslim Student Association here at ASU say rooms like these make them feel valued on university campuses. According to Pew Research Center, people who identify themselves as Muslims make up about 1% of Arizona's population.
ASU is like recognizing the fact that, you know, there's Muslim students on campus and they need a place like this, and that makes you feel important. That makes you feel like, oh, they care. They actually notice that we need a place to pray and a place to, you know, make wudu.
Student Malij Zara says it's the key attention to detail, from the signs down to the shoe cubbies, that make this place special. In Tempe, Blakely McHugh, Cronkite News.
According to Neville, only a handful of universities across the U.S. have rooms equipped for Muslim prayer.
For the first time in the United States, ancient Chinese musical instruments and artifacts are on display at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix. Reporter Mia Atkins has a look at this unique exhibit before it opens to the public tomorrow.
9,000 years of history are on display at the Ancient Musical Treasures from Central China exhibition, Harmony from the Ancients Henan Museum. The Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix is working with the Henan Museum in China to display these artifacts in America. Zhang Desai, deputy director of the Henan Museum, came to Phoenix for the opening of the exhibition. He spoke to me through a translator.
That's why they need those objects here to represent to American audience, because they want the American audience to know about not only the Chinese culture from the Henan, but also other part of China.
Guests who visit the museum are able to use these headsets to hear the sounds of the music from different periods throughout ancient Chinese history. Colin Pearson, curator of the exhibit, says guests will travel through 9,000 years of Chinese history.
People are going to be surprised and amazed at the variety of pieces and the beauty that they highlight and the way that it connects to even to the present day.
Some of the instruments included in the exhibit are the approximately 7,000 to 9,000 year old bone flute and a bell chime that is one of only 10 that still exist today. Desai says part of the exhibit's title includes the word harmony to represent the partnership between the two museums.
If you want to harmony, you have to have more than two sounds, and that's why this museum and Henan Museum work together, because it not only about this exhibition but also represents their friendship.
Staff at the Musical Instrument Museum urge people to come experience the exhibit soon, as it will only be around for 6 months. In Phoenix, Mia Atkins, Cronkite News.
Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Cronkite News. For more multimedia coverage, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org and click on the Consumer tab.